Hi, it's Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot, and today, finally, I am able to do this trad witch tag that I have tried about 10 times. I was having major problems with my software and I've just given up now on it, and I've just got a new video editor, and let's see how it goes. So the first question is, what kind of craft do you practice? For example, so folk magic, traditional witchcraft, wicca, modern witchcraft, you know, and so forth and so on. I had to think long and hard on this one, and I suppose the best way to describe what type of craft I do practice would be energy work, spiritual energy work. I can sense energy, predict energy, I can feel it, I can hear it, I can taste it. It's very, very focused on just energy. Even the way I read the tarot as well is exactly the same, so I'll stick with spiritual energy work for now. Because really it's hard to label what you do. It's very hard to label. The next question is, what paradigm, faith or philosophy informs your craft? So it's a spirit model, animism, you know, and that type of thing. So of course mine would be an energy model, definitely. But also a little bit of animism, because I do believe that everything contains spirit of some type. So I do believe there are spirits that dwell within trees, every plant, everything has got spirit within them. I truly, truly believe that. When I first started, I was very heavily Wiccan, very, very heavily, and also Druidism really appealed to me, and I wanted to join the OBAD, but this was like over 20 years ago and was just way too expensive for me back then, and I just couldn't afford it. So, but now I suppose, however, I just class myself as an eclectic pagan, because I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I've sort of crafted it into my own, because the whole point of witchcraft is the craft bit. It's how you craft your craft, at what makes you you, basically. It's what appeals to you when you want to practice your craft. So yeah. So the next question is, what culture is your practice rooted in? So none, absolutely nothing. My dad is English, my mum is German, or was German. She just passed away in May at 91. My dad is still here, and he's the same age. Now, really, the German side, we really don't know anything much about that side, because I can't speak German, because Mum was a big believer of, you know, you live in Australia, you speak English. And but with my father, we both share a love of, you know, things that go bump in the night. And when he was a kid, him and his mates used to try and spend camp overnight at the Stonehenge. So you can tell it's many, many years ago, because it's all fenced off now. And he said something always frightened them. He said whether it was a noise, or he said we'd just be sitting there talking, and suddenly all the hair on the back of our necks stood up, and we just used to hop on our bikes and pedal off. They never made it through a night at Stonehenge. Something always spooked them. So I always grew up with stories of him living in England, as did my daughters. And in fact, it impressed my youngest daughter so much, she lived in England for 2 years and come back with a fiance. So, you know, I'd have to say more that side, and probably that's why I was sort of called to Druidism. I do follow the northern hemisphere of the wheel. It sounds really weird, but I just feel like, you know, hey, look, Halloween is Halloween. It's the 31st of October all over the world. It falls on the same date. I can feel the veil growing thinner at time here in Australia. But in saying that, I follow seasonally, I follow the Nuna Wheel of the Year, which are the indigenous people native to the land that I live on. So from December to January we're in Burak, and Burak Bona is very hot and dry, and burning of scrub is done to encourage new shoots, and the Muja, the Christmas tree, blooms. So seasonally, the seasons, I follow that Wheel of the Year, but on a broader range, I follow the northern hemisphere of the year, in, you know, with Yule and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I do that. So yes, I think there's nothing really rooted, because my mum, when she was young, you know, you can imagine what it was like growing up in war-torn Germany. She used to live next door to they used to live next door to a church, and the priests would have all these wheels of cheese and meat and wine and all sorts of things delivered them, and they only lived in a small village, and they never shared it with anybody. And Mum used to faint with hunger, as I'm sure quite a lot of people did. So they were a little bit luckier that my grandfather had a sister who had a farm, and she used to be able to give them some butter or meat or whatever, and bread. But if the soldiers, you know, because if ever you walk past a soldier, they'd search you. If they find it, they would take it. They would take it. They would just, you know, that's what it was like. So there was no love of the church in my family at all. So I can't really say, but because you know, we were always into things that go bump in the night, that purely come from my father, purely from that. So yeah, I do feel that he is a little bit psychic himself, because when Mum passed away, he saw her, he heard her. We both saw things, and Mum was, you know, like, I couldn't tell you, she was the biggest atheist of them all. But yeah, we did, and he even felt his own mother. And I said, well, you know what that means, don't you? That they're all together, because his mother and my mum were very, very close. So there you go. I've just got the questions next to me here. So the next question is, how long have you been practicing, and how did it all started? So it was about over 30 years ago. I was running a guest house in South Yarra with my ex-husband, and one of the girls there was a chef, and she worked very long, odd hours. So she used to leave me her rent hidden in her room, and I would go and collect it when, you know, when it was due. So one day I went up to get her rent, and there was a book on the bed called Life's a Witch by Fiona Horn, who is a very well-known Australian witch. And I thought, oh, you know, that looks good. And I read the blurb on it, and I thought, gee, I'll ask her about it. So next time I saw her, I asked her, and she said, oh, it's absolutely fantastic. As soon as I finish, I'll give it to you so you can have a read, which she did, and it blew my mind. It literally changed my whole world overnight. It opened up my eyes. It gave me my voice. It answered questions that I didn't even know that I had about myself. It was just freaking amazing. So that is how it all started, from that one book. Then from her book, I read about Titania Harding, who, whoops, I'll just put these like that, who we all know, if you know me, Titania's Fortune Cards. This is the first edition, the second is pink. I found her books. Now, her books I've gotten rid of, except for one called Zillions, which is about numerology, which is really, really good. I really, actually, that book, whoops, it's fantastic. The chair was further away than I thought. That book is fantastic. And then from Titania, I read about tarot cards and how you should get your cards read, which I did later on down the track. I didn't think much of the reading I had, so I brought my own pack of cards because I couldn't afford to, you know, keep on getting readings. And that's how reading the tarot started. But even though I read the tarot, I was more of a Lenormand reader, and so if I asked a question of the tarot, I'd pull the corresponding amount of cards from Titania's, because I didn't trust myself when it came to the tarot or what I was reading, because I would get the gist of it. So my tarot reading is very, very pictorial and energetic, as I mentioned before, very much energy, but it's also seen through the eyes of the Lenormand. And when I read the Lenormand, I can read the Lenormand through the eyes of the tarot as well, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, that is how it has all started. And as for her books, I don't really believe that she was a witch. She said that she was a witch. She grew up in Sydney. I don't know how many years ago now. I sort of Googled her to see what she was doing. And she's married a lawyer and living in England now. And she mentioned all her charity works and everything like that, but never ever mentioned that she was a witch. So I kind of think maybe she might have just sort of jumped on the bandwagon as it was, because it was very fashionable to be a witch many, many years ago as well, you know. You think it's kind of bad now. It's not, you know, you think of witch talk and everything like that. It's absolutely nothing to when it first came out. It was quite mind-blowing. So that's how it all started, and it just sort of progressed from there. So the next question is, what books or resources have you first started with? So it was Fiona Horn's, which I haven't got, and I don't know if you can still get it, if it's still in print. I think everybody gets this book here, Wicca by Scott Cunningham. I love this book because it actually it went to the really basic stuff on where to place things on your altar. The god on the left, the goddess on the left, the god on the right, representing both down the middle. It was just really good, solid information based on practicality, because he lived it, he breathed it. So definitely, Scott Cunningham, I recommend that. Another one of his I also got was Earth, Air, Fire and Water. So that was magical spells on using the elements. So that's another good book there. I also had A Beginner's Guide to Witchcraft by Teresa Moray, which I liked because she explained how to do an earth evoking pentagram, and a banishing one and all that type of thing. So that had some good practical knowledge as well in it. So I enjoyed that book. I got this on my honeymoon in New Zealand, Life's a Witch by Carla Trove. I'll have to reread this again because I can't remember now what's in it, but that was another book as well. The Good Old Idiot's Guide to Witch and Wicca and Witchcraft. Honestly, it's brilliant. It really, really is good. The people who write these books actually practice what they preach. So it's a good book despite the, the woeful, the name of it. Another one is Grimoire for the Green Witch. Absolutely fabulous. And she's very heavily into green Wicca, like her own family type of thing. But what I love about this book is all the correspondences that she has. So she has the animal totems, she's got herbs, she's got moon gardening, herbal and plant listing by purpose, what you can use them for, runic tables, list of ogham, fuse, energy point, planetary tables. So for instance, if we look at the sun, the tree is oak, the animal is lime, the flower is sunflower, the gem is topaz, and the scent is frankincense, and it just goes on and on from there. The correspondence is absolutely wonderful, especially the planetary ones. I used the planetary ones all the time when I was very heavily into spell work. Absolutely brilliant. She has also, probably not many people are aware, but she's got Tarot for the Green Witch by Anne Mora, and what this does, excuse me, is every single card it matches up. So for the Five of Cups, if you get the Four of Swords, it'll match it up with the Five of Cups, cleansing of useless regrets, vigilance over legacy, rest from partial loss. Then if it's next to the Six of Swords, cleansing of old troubles, restful journey, vigilance to overcome difficulties, and so on, right up to the Major Arcana. So when I first started reading the tarot, I found this book absolutely brilliant. And you know what? Sometimes I still have a little peek to see, like what does the King of Wands and the Two of Pentacles mean together? Counselling on balancing money, cooperation in business, decision, new job. So sometimes I still will have a peek at it. Very rarely now because I know what I'm doing, but it's a good book to have. I highly recommend it. I've also got Pamela Ball, absolutely brilliant. I love Pamela Ball. And speaking on Pamela Ball, her Dream Dictionary, oh my God. Now you can't get this one anymore. I think there's a revised edition around. This is around $240 to buy now. By far, this is the best Dream Dictionary I have ever had in my entire life. All these years later, I've never bought another Dream Dictionary since I got this one. It's just so detailed. It's not like, when you say, oh, you look up what does a clover mean, it means good luck. It's not something as simple as that. It'll go into if a woman dreams of an old man, but if a man dreams of an old man, it goes into all different things. If it's flying, you also look at journey. It's incredible. It's really, really an amazing book. I highly recommend that when you start going on a spiritual journey, that you get a good Dream Dictionary. And anything by Pamela Ball is really, really good. I really do. Also got Cassandra Easton. I absolutely adore her. I'm keeping this book out. I'm going to reread that one. She is absolutely wonderful. And she's also written the Complete Crystal Bible. Oh, excuse me. And I like her book. I prefer it over Judy Hall's. I had some Judy Hall's and I've actually got rid of it. So for instance, the reason I like it, she goes a little bit more into it. So she'll of course go into the colours, the types. So this is black phantom quartz, so it's silicon dioxide, often clear quartz in which a phantom or shadowy quartz crystal appears. The dark shadow inner may be smoky quartz, back shale, goethite or hematite, and then we'll go into the colours, the availability if it's a rare crystal or hard to get, the physical benefits thought to improve regrowth of bones after fractures, torn ligaments and muscles, tumours, and so forth. It goes all onto that. Emotional healing, what type of emotional healing will happen, But what I like about it, it's got the candle colours, fragrances, carnation, cranberry, lily of the valley, saffron, a practical use, so crystal for renovating your home, your present home, by redecorating it. You know, to use that. Put it in the centre of the home to absorb any negative earth energies beneath the home and to act as a welcoming focus for luck-bringing house guardian. It's got magical significance, which I absolutely love. The black within the white makes black phantom quartz ideal for magical or spiritual work, since it carries its own inbuilt grounding and protection. Keep one with divinatory and magical tools and on your healing table to both empower and ensure you are not overwhelmed by the energy rush or spooked by anything negative. It's got divinatory meaning. Do not let shadows of past failures and disappointments hold you back from taking full advantage of the possibilities for present happiness. The zodiac sign she associates that with Scorpio, and the empowerment is within me are seeds of the future. So as you can see, she goes into a really good, but the magical, that's what I really love. I love the grey highlighted bit in the book. It's absolutely fabulous. It really, really is. I've also Lillian 2, Feng Shui Magic, absolutely brilliant book. Actually, Lillian 2, she said in her book that if you wanted to attract love, to put a pair of ducks in your window in a particular direction. But mine was actually lounge room, which I did, and I met Aaron, my now husband, a week later. So there you go. So they are the resources that I first started with, and of course, because tarot was, you know, it's all of this. My magical workings and tarot all come together at the same time. So I do like this book as well. It's fantastic. It's got a fantastic spread in there of a double Celtic cross, which you can use to pick the time and place when things are going to happen, if you're into prediction, which I am. Also Tarot for Yourself by Mary Kay Greer. This is still available actually. I saw it, but of course it's got a new cover now, because this is geez, when did I buy this? 2002. This is so yes, that would have been about right, I'd say. Now the reason I bring this book up is because if we're going to be talking about resources, Deborah Gray is another one, and Deborah Gray is another Australian witch, and she learned in a coven atmosphere, and her leader of the coven was a druid himself. Now, like I said with Titania's books, I got rid of them because none of the spells worked. Of course, now I never ever look up for spells. I just create them myself. But back when you knew, you know, you sort of rely on books. So she had a spell about meeting a soulmate, and it was just taking a simple piece of rose quartz, anointing it with your favourite oil or perfume, pouring in your intentions of what did you want for a partner. I just said I want a soulmate, someone who loves me for who I am. Wrap it up and put it away. So I did that. Then when I started reading the tarot, you know, there's questions that you've got to actually ask yourself and do and everything like that. And I tell you what, I think the bookmark is gone. I bookmarked it. Now I'm going to have to find it every time this happens. So you're asking questions about, you know, about yourself, and I, you know, like entering a card and what that card say to you, and so it's already going to pick strength. So just bear with me, because it's going to make sense why I'm doing this. And I really thought that I bookmarked it, unless the rotten little cats were in here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so after I did that, and I'm working through this book, and the question I asked on the 2nd of the 3rd 03, and you can see that. There you go. Will I get married again? And underneath, should I get married again? So for the will I get married again, I got strength for the past, 8 of Pentacles for present, and the world reverse for the future. Now, I don't read reversals now, but hey, when you're learning, you do it, sort of kind of do what you're told. So I wrote in it, I find this hard to believe, but strength to me means I'll find it in me to love again, maybe meeting him at a new place of work or old one. I think the world reverse shows that I'm wary of making the same mistake. We met through our 2 youngest daughters becoming friends in primary school. I did nearly call off the wedding. Well, actually I did. I called off the wedding because I got cold feet. So that is absolutely true. And should I get married again, I got Strength, the Queen of Cups reversed, and the 9 Cups, and I put, it looks like I will, and about 3 exclamation marks. But the date is what I want to touch on, because I married Aaron on the 2nd of the 1st in 2004. So I met him a week after them ducks. We went out for dinner. Because he had all his kids over, so we went out for the first. Actually, I dropped off Sarah for a play date. A play date. It sounds so funny now because she's 30 and getting married next year. But I dropped her off there, and he invited me in for a coffee, and I was never allowed to ever be with the opposite sex in my first marriage, or even basically leave the house. And I thought, stuff it, why not? I can do what I like now. 4 hours later, we were still talking. Invited me out for dinner with all the kids, so we all went out for dinner. And 6 weeks later, we got married. It really happened like a whirlwind. So be careful when you do spells, because they will come true. You know, you put your intention in it, they'll come true. So I just wanted to touch on that, because, and I like sharing that spell because it worked for me, and I'm always hoping that it will bring somebody else their soulmate or whatever it is that they, you know, desire in a partner. So yeah, so there you go. So now that it's also got, would you recommend them to others today? And I'd say definitely. I definitely would. They're older. I find older books to be better than newer books, because they're more doused in reality. It's not all cupcakey and love and light. It tells you like it is. With Pamela Paul's book in there, she was the one who introduced me to Hecate, and she was the one that I called upon to get my divorce, because he would not sign the divorce papers, even though I ran his work, his boss. I did everything I could. Did that spell, court day come, I stood up to tell him what I'd done. He said, oh, you got one of those, and he didn't even listen to me. Like, he just banged his hammer like 2 minutes later. It was incredible and such a relief. So yes, I would. So now is, how has your practice or paradigm changed over the years? So if at all. So I suppose in the biggest way it's changed is angels. So you can see my, excuse a big bruise on my arm. I have got the spiral goddess, but I've also got an angel wing up the top. I walked into a wall with that, and it's a funny way. This is going to show a lot about my husband and our relationship. I love farting on him, and I farted on him, went to run away before he could tickle me, and I walked into the wall. So that was karma for me. So angelic energy, biggest change, and how that all started. But before I hit into that, it's gone from really intense spell work, and I mean really intense casting spells. They always worked, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet. What I wanted worked, okay? And you know, I'd do everything. Call in the quarters, cast a circle. I'd do spells when I was menstruating, when I still used to. Thank the goddess, I don't anymore. I did everything, you know, herbs, you know, the whole kit and caboodle I would do. So, but now it's just purely spiritual energy that I work with. That from just asking to now working together without any expectation. So how it all kind of changed as well with the angelic end. Now I've always been open to angels, because I've followed Elizabeth Harper for many years, and you can see that's hanging above me on the curtain. That's a soul silk. What she does is she paints the colours that she sees in your soul. So I have that up there. It's got lots of spirits in there. My cat that I had for 22 years, right down to the little torn ear that she had, appeared in that as well. So it's absolutely, I like to have it up there, because it just makes me feel good. So she does angel readings every week, and I watch them every week. So I was open to angelic energy, very open towards it. But as far as working with them, how it all started, for those of you who've been following me for a long time, I used to do eye scry with my little eye. So this particular ball is a ocean jasper. And as I was scrying, I'd see a lot of angels, I'd see a lot of feathers, I'd see birds, I'd see rainbows, which have got a very big significance for me as well. And I was saying, I know for those of you who need support, you know, your angels are going to be with you, and, you know, so forth like that. Spirit is going to be watching over you, never realising it was for me. So I've also got a special tree that I've connected to, that I, on my morning walks, which I haven't been able to do since we got a new dog, because he's a staffy and I can't walk him by myself, he's too strong. I always touched it and used to talk to it. And one day I got a really bad electric shock in my left arm, and I had a bit of a fright, right? geez, you know, what's all that about? I didn't understand it. Then I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was the arm that it was warning me. It was telling me that I was sick, okay? When I used to go for my morning walks, I'd see, I even saw an angelic imprint in a boot print. Rainbows in the sky, painted like kids' paintings in windows, and just rainbows everywhere. And rainbows for fairy red whispers, and I have got a big meaning, because when I did a people in spirit message, her mother and grandmother come through, and one of the sayings that she used to say is follow your own rainbow to your own happiness, or something along those lines. Now, she didn't even have a YouTube channel, but somehow it come up on Google for her to watch, and she watched it, and she got in contact with me, and oh my God. So it was just amazing. Anyway, it's too much to go into. I have done a video somewhere on my channel about that, and the reaction and everything like that, with her permission, and that's how she actually started her YouTube channel. From that, so we're very, very close. We're soul sisters, and spirit brought us together. But now when I think of rainbows, I know spirit's with me, but I also feel like it was her mum and grandmother watching over me as well. I truly do feel that. So that is how I ended up working with angels, because I found out I had breast cancer. So there was just so many coincidences. It's just, I don't believe in coincidences. I really, really don't. So how it's, and that's what I mean. Like, I connect to that tree spiritual. This tree gives me visions. It gave me the a Reiki symbol for, I think it was powerful, and I thought it was a made-up symbol until I was scrolling through Facebook one day, and lo and behold, there's a symbol that the tree gave me. So, you know, it's truly, truly amazing. So it's very, you know, I'm very energy focused. So when I used to have a coffee machine, and so not only can I scry, I can scry on anything basically. And you know the chocolate that you sprinkle on top of your cappuccino, I sprinkled. But before I tell you that, when I found out I was diagnosed, I went for a walk in the there's a little, no, it's not really, there's a little bush area, a little park that you can cut through, and 3 crows flew past me and landed on the same branch, and all 3 of them turned around and looked straight at me, and I thought, I'm going to be all right. The triple goddess is with me. Later on that day, I was changing the sheets in the bedroom, and I was looking at the bed thinking about, you know, because my mind was everywhere, and I very clearly heard the words, I'm not going to let you die, my child. And I knew it was her, because nobody calls me my child. My mother never, nobody in my living memory has ever called me my child. And when you do work with spirit, and you can connect with people and pets who have passed over, it's a very distinct voice that comes in your head. It's not your head. So when we talk to ourselves, we hear our own voice. But when it's somebody else communicating with you, it's a completely different voice that you've never heard before, and you're unable to emulate it or copy it. I think that's emulate. Is that the right word? But you know, there's no way you can reproduce that voice. Okay, so I knew it. I knew it. But of course, I was still worried, because you know, we didn't know what stage it was at and everything like that. So I'm sitting on my bed, and I'm listening to my husband sleep, and I have my head down, my hands on my knees, looking at the floor, and I'm just praying. I said, oh, look, I know, I just want to live with this man many more years. It's, I think it was about 17, 18 years of being married then. You know, I want another 20 years with him. I know I don't want to die. Got up, made my coffee, sprinkled the chocolate on, look at it, and there is an angel kneeling before a figure that is sitting on a bed with their hands on top of the hands that were on the knees. So I knew that was me, and I knew my angels heard me. And it makes me cry now even thinking about it, because it was just so amazing. And I kept seeing things all the time in my coffee. I haven't got that maker anymore, you know, like, yeah, it was amazing. So that's how angels came in, and that was a big change for me, because I was always interested in them and open to them, and I think that's why they stepped forward and help me heal and keep me on the straight and narrow. And I used to suffer from depression quite badly when I was younger. Haven't taken medication for over 20 years. After everything was over, I kept a positive attitude all through my chemo, my radiation therapy, my mastectomy, the whole lot. Nearly died of septic poisoning as well, right after the mastectomy. But I was positive, and then after Mum died, I think everything just hit me, and I had to go back on medication. I feel so much better now. But that's not the end of it. That's not the end of it. So because I didn't do any more spell work, I felt guilty, because I felt like that, you know, you had to celebrate the seasons, you had to celebrate, you know, the Sabbats and everything like that, and I felt a little bit guilty, but I didn't want to be greedy because every spell I'd done come true. And I only really did a spell when I really needed something, so that was getting a divorce, my top priority, selling the house, having enough money to buy my own home, to provide a home for me and my 2 girls, you know, Aaron, that you know, to meet my soulmate. And so I felt like I've got everything I need in my life, and I did not want to appear greedy. I didn't want to do any spells, so I just kind of just put it to the side. I always had my altar set up, but I just didn't do anything. And a few days ago, I was watching a video by Hearth Witch, and she does a lot of opinion type ones too. And there's this guy who does interviews, and he was interviewing well-known witches, and one of them was Phyllis Carreau, who all knows has done the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, which I absolutely love. And she said, if you ask a new witch what's doing spells is about, they'll say it's to manifest what you want. And she said that's a very old way of looking at things. It's actually working with what I said is working with purely spiritual energy with no expectations. And I thought, oh my God, so what I'm doing is okay. It doesn't matter that I'm aware of what's, you know, going around, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter that I'm not doing all them things that I used to do, because I was feeling quite guilty about it, because I was so happy. I just didn't want to appear greedy. So anyway, I had to tell you that bit because I had confirmation. After my radiotherapy finished, my husband took me away for a weekend down south, and both of us went and got tattoos. So that's when I got this tattoo. Anyway, the guy who was tattooing me was asking me about the spiral goddess, and I was telling him about it, and he said, oh, I said, my girlfriend's got a friend who's right into that sort of thing. I said, oh yeah. He goes, you may have heard of her. And I said, who is it? Fiona Horn. I nearly fell off the bloody chair. I said, you're kidding me. Her book is what started me on this path all those years ago. So when I got home, I used to have Instagram back then. I put a picture of this and I tagged her in it, and she wrote back to me and she said she was so thrilled that her book put me on the path of the goddess, and she wished me luck and said that I got a very powerful tattoo there. So all these years later, I had confirmation that what I'm doing is right. And I think that's what we forget. With witchcraft, which we think about the Sabbats, we think about this and that, the spells and blah, 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 but we forget about the craft bit. It all boils down to the craft and how best we can craft our craft to suit us, to suit our lifestyles, to suit who we are, because we're all different. All of us are different and approach things in different ways. And we should never feel guilty because we haven't got enough time to do the very basics. And the reason why I do a lot of stuff in my head, because Deborah Gray said in one of her books that I had, which I haven't got any more, otherwise I would have had it here, is that sometimes you haven't got time to do a ritual, to have a ritual bath, to do the candle work, to do all that sort of thing. It's perfectly fine to do it all in your head. And I did that a lot when I was fighting breast cancer. A lot of it in my head. I had crystals. The 3rd round of chemo that I had, I took crystals with me. What a bloody difference, hey? The side effects were just like next to none. I recovered in 1 week instead of 2 weeks because, you know, it really knocks your socks off, that shit. It was amazing. So what I was doing was fine. So don't ever feel guilty if you're busy raising children, doing housework or whatever, or you're working long hours. If you do stuff in your head and you're thinking about them and you're thanking them for this or that or whatever, it's enough, okay? It's enough. They understand. They understand better than what we do about life. So there you go. It's a long-winded question, but I had to answer, but I had to sort of say where it all come from. I had to take you back to the beginning to where I've come now. So there you go. So what does your daily practice or regular practice look like? So as I said, I do a lot in my head. Also do a lot of blessings for animals who have passed away, because here in Australia, oh my God, the wildlife that dies on the side of the road is astronomical and it's horrible. So if I see something, I say, you know, bless you little one, may you fly, crawl, whatever it is, hop if it's a kangaroo, in the summer lands, and peace and harmony forevermore, blessed be. So always, you know, trying to help move their spirit on all the time. I've been praying a lot for Ukraine, as I'm sure so many other people have. And an interesting thing on Ukraine is I read that a lot of supernatural things have been happening. People are saying they have been seeing angels and all sorts of other supernatural going-ons. So, you know, obviously it's not me that's just praying. All of us have been praying. So many people I take it that it's starting to work. I take it that it's starting to work. I wish it would end sooner, but there you go. I pray for my continued healing and good health, as well as my family and friends, my tree. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And in saying that too, I never did any spell work to get better with my cancer either. I never did a spell to get well. I just trusted in the gods and the angels and my guides. I truly did. And I had a lot of people praying for me. My subscribers, complete strangers, you know, email me, used to message me on Instagram when I still had it. And you really feel it. When you're the one that's being prayed for, by God, you feel it. You really, really do. I was really nervous about having going under anaesthetic, not so much the mastectomy, just the anaesthetic part. So Keridan's Cauldron did a beautiful little spell for me to help, you know, that I wouldn't be scared. And I couldn't care less. I was joking with him, you know, lying on the thing, and I was the surgeon. They put a cross with what breast he's going to remove, and I said, "You sure it's the right one?" Laughing, and then the next thing I remember is waking up, and then unfortunately getting septic poisoning. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. So yeah, it's just I just didn't feel I didn't need to. I just didn't need to. I put faith. Maybe if it, because mine was grade 2, they don't say stages anymore, because that's why I wear this, because I had my lymph nodes removed. I pray for my this to come to the same size. When this was at its worst, I couldn't wear my wedding ring for one thing, but they looked like sausages. My hand looked like sausages. It was awful. And I've been praying for it to come down the same size as my other arm. It's getting there, but, you know, I'll have to wear this for the foreseeable future. But as far as spell work I didn't do it. Maybe if I had been more, it was more developed, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe not, I don't know. I just felt like, yeah, I just asked for the healing. So anyway. So what do you do on a regular basis? Like, as I just said, is pray. And also if I read something awful happening to somebody, I ask the goddess, gods, angels and my guides to help heal and support them, which unfortunately seems to be more often now. But I also ask for their gods, goddess and gods, or whatever, to step in and help heal, because I don't want to impose my beliefs on someone else. So I ask, and whoever they believe in, may they help them as well. So that's something I do all the time. The next question is, are there aspects of your craft that you need to keep secret? In your opinion, is secretly important witchcraft? And I'm going to say yes. I feel some things need to be kept secret, particularly for those who live in the Bible Belt in America. I've read some absolutely terrible stories about what's happened to people who've been found out to be witches. And of course from less than understanding family and friends, particularly if you've got young kids that go to school, you know, things can be put out of whack and you know, it's like Chinese whispers sort of thing. So yeah, I do feel that. Plus I'm of the school that when you do magical works, once it's done, you forget about it and let magical nature take its course. If you keep thinking about it, you'll hinder the magical flow. That's the flow of the magic. That's what I truly believe in. So whenever I did do a spell, I'd forget about it. Just forget about it until it come true, you know. What are some of your favourite tools that you use regularly? So when I do anything, it's always candles. Candles and herbs and oils is my go-to. I love using fire magic and earth magic too. So sometimes I might write on a bay leaf what I want, and I bury it in the garden beneath the jade tree, which is supposed to be a money tree. I've got one in the front and one in the back. So that crystals, big on crystals, feathers, things I find in nature, and my mind, of course, constantly my mind. So I've also got a flat stone like plate that I got from a quarry when I lived in South Australia, and I painted a pentagram on that. So I've been using that for 30 plus years, and that's my charging plate. So if I buy a new tarot deck and I want to, I just pop it on there for it to get rid of anything that might be attached to it, germs or whatever, any bad energies. I mean, I never cleanse or anything my tarot decks, but if I do buy a new one, and with COVID and everything, it goes on that charging plate. My jewellery, if I've been wearing it for a long time, goes on there. Anything that I feel needs charging, my husband teases me and says I should charge my phone on that. So anything, and that plate, because I've done so much with it, is so powerful. It's freaking amazing. So I just, sometimes I don't even have to leave it overnight, whatever I'm charging. I can pick it up and feel that it's cleansed. So that I use now all the time. Yep. And the last question is, what books or resources would you recommend to newbie witches interested in your kind of practice? So any of the books that I showed, definitely. But because I couldn't buy a lot of books, because when I first started on this path, I was very, very poor. So I used to use the library a lot. And I think the best thing to do is what are you attracted to? You know, ask yourself, well, do you love candles? Like, I've always loved candles before I ever knew I, practiced being a witch or whatever. Always loved candles since I was a kid. Love, love, love candles. What is it that you like? Start researching the area that you live and the indigenous people who may have lived on your land, their beliefs. You might find a deity that you really resonate with. Look at the mythical lore, because every myth there's a grain of truth. Have a look at that. Really research. Read books from Phyllis Corot, Gerald Gardner, who was the founder of Wicca, Doreen Valentine, Raymond Buckland, who else? Deborah Gray, Fiona Horn. Look for people who have been around for a long time. Don't look on Witch Talk Instagram that. I mean, I'm sure there's some real genuine ones that are on there, but if you look at someone who looks like they're no older than 20 and they're, saying you have to do this and that, don't believe it. Really look for books that are written in the years, like 2000 and beforehand. Go back, really go back and take everything that you read with a grain of salt. Whatever doesn't resonate with you, you feel in your heart it's not right, then it's not right for you. It might be right for me, but it's not right for you. So really do your research and just go for people who are been around for a long time, and just where you live, research it. And that's it. So until next time, take care everybody, and craft your craft the way that you want it to be. Listen to your spiritual heart, look with your spiritual eyes, and feel with your spiritual energy. Blessed be everyone.